Hey guys, it's Diane Flores at livingthegoddesslife.com. I have a special treat today. I've got Neghar Fonooni of negharfonooni.com. She is a fellow meathead yogi as well as a camel toe aficionado. And we are going to talk about all things yoga today, going over, how she started with WildFire, the program that she's launched this week, which is amazing, by the way. I love it. And lots of other goodies that we're going to dive into. So welcome, Neghar. I'm excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and chat with you.
Yeah. So can you give us a little bit of background on how you started yoga? And I think I wanted to segue this interview that way because I was very anti-yoga for so many years. And when I found you and I was like, okay, she's a fellow meathead yogi. I'm not the only one. It just really clicked and I loved it. So how did you come to find yoga?
So I started practicing yoga it's been almost 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And I haven't been consistent the whole time, and I'll touch more on that. But I was working at the YMCA when I was 18, and that was when I first kind of got into fitness. I'd always been in the weight room as a softball player, where basically what that means is they just throw you in the weight room and tell you to figure it out.
For sure.
We didn't have any guidance at all. But I was working at this YMCA and I was, around a lot of trainers and there were tons of classes offered and things like that. So I just started kind of trying everything just to see what I was into. And I went to a yoga class. I was the youngest, least flexible person in the room. There were all these yoga moms, which we are now.
Yeah, totally.
All these yoga moms. And I remember thinking, just as a totally ignorant little 18-year-old who didn't know anything about the world but thought she knew everything. I remember thinking, how are these women? These women are all, they're so old. How are they able to do these things?
Right.
And I can't do this. And I just remember being so hard and just feeling like, why can't I do this? And so that was kind of why I started doing yoga, because I was like, this is bullshit. If these chicks can do this, I got to be able to do this too. I'm an athlete.
Yeah.
And so thankfully that was what got me in, and I just sort of stuck with it, and then started doing my couple years, probably right after I had my son, right before I had my son, started doing my yoga teacher training and getting more into it and teaching classes. And I taught the whole time I was pregnant, and was the head of a yoga studio where I lived in Maryland, and got really into it. And then started and had a few personal training clients on the side, but I mostly was teaching yoga. And a lot of people don't know this. They know me as a fitness person.
I did not know that.
But I was mostly teaching yoga. Yeah. That was what I did pretty much full time, and ran the studio, and then had maybe a handful of clients on the side. And then I started working at this new gym just part-time, just to take on new clients. I was a single mom, and I was like, well, I need to have more clients, and you only get that through, more visibility. So I started working at this other gym in addition, and met some trainers there who taught me a lot about fitness that I really didn't know. I wasn't really squatting and deadlifting and doing more compound lifts and stuff like that. I'd never done any pull-ups outside of that Gravitron machine.
Yeah, the assisted pull. I think it is called the Gravitron.
It is called a Gravitron.
I think it's a ride at a carnival too, by the way.
It is. It's really, yeah. So I had never really done anything like that. I just done really basic stuff, but stuff that you see kind of, I don't know, stuff that I saw in Self magazine. Or,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
That kind of stuff. It just wasn't legit. It was a lot of standing on Bosu balls and crap like that.
Doing random weird shit.
Yes.
Try to look cool.
Right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any kind of movement. I think it's great, but I just didn't have any solid foundation, and I wasn't doing these, I wasn't actually training to build up this solid base of strength. And so I met some trainers who kind of took me under their wing and, showed me a bunch of stuff, and I got really into lifting. And I tried to kind of balance the two. And eventually lifting one out, because I was I can't do both of these things, both myself and as a professional. It just became unmanageable from a time standpoint. And then for a while, I didn't practice yoga, and all of the trainers at this gym where I worked were such like fitness and lifting elitists that they were just like, yoga is pointless. Yoga is a waste of time. You know, yoga is not going to give you, yoga is not going to change your body. It's not going to make you an athlete. You know, it's not actually the best way to stretch. You know, there's like all this fitness elitism that I bought into because I like trusted these people and, you know, looked up to them. And so for a long time, that part of my life was really missing, and I was just lifting. And a friend of mine had just gotten into yoga and was like, hey, I just started going to this new yoga studio. I really love it. You should come to class with me. And that was when I realized, I was like, damn, I really like
miss it.
I really miss it.
Yeah.
I really haven't practiced in a long time. It was really kind of how I started out in fitness. And I just haven't been, you know, and I kind of like wrote it off. And, you know, was like, okay, yeah, these guys must be right. Like, they must be right if they're saying that, you know, yoga's a waste of my time and all this other stuff. And I started going to this class with her, and I just felt right back in love. And I was like, I can't believe that I ever didn't have this as part of my life. It made me a better lifter. It made me a better trainer. It made me a better mom. It just really elevated my life in so many ways. And I just needed to figure out how I could do, you know, all the things I wanted to do athletically and make them work.
Right.
You know, and I did that with WildFire, and I've like never looked back. Like, I get on my mat every single day, and I don't lift every single day.
Yeah.
So it's something that I do every day, and it's something that, like, when I do it, I feel like it takes me back to my roots of movement. Like, this is where I started. This is how movement came to be a thing for me. And this is the first thing that I really committed to and really got into. Yeah. And, you know, it just feels really good to be back into it with a sense of balance.
Right. Now, speaking to that, do you find there are lots of misconceptions still with people on that? Like, oh, it's not physical enough, or it's too spiritual, or, you know, isn't it a bunch of like chanting and woo woo? And like, there's so many different types of yoga. And I know that specifically personally held me back from trying because, you know, you'd seen what you see on TV. And I was telling someone the other day about how it was very taboo for a very long time, and it's more mainstream now. But even still to this day, I mean, much like I teach pole dancing still, it's like, you know, people are like, oh, you teach strippers, you know, you know, it's very like, there's this like whole judgment around it. But, you know, do you still find that people are reluctant to try it, especially athletes, because of that, like that it's not physical enough? I know that was like, oh, it's going to be too slow for me, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's still a little bit of a stigma in terms of people thinking like, oh, I don't like yoga, or it's, you know, not something I want to do because maybe they had one experience that didn't work for them. I know personally, I've been to tons of different yoga studios, and there have been times where I've been like, I've walked out and just been like, I hated that class. Like, just didn't enjoy that. I didn't like the instructor's energy, or I didn't like the style or the pace or something. But like you said, there are so many different ways to do yoga that I really encourage people to find something that works for them, because it's going to impact your life so positively if you give yourself the chance to find the type of yoga that you like, the instructor that you like, and so on. I know a lot of people who just are like, I'm not a yoga person. And I'm like, you don't have to be a yoga person. Right. Like, I think just by being a person, you're a yoga person. Right. Like, you just don't have to. So that's a big part of what I've been trying to do with my business in the last few years, especially bringing a lot more yoga into my offerings, because I really want to tear down that stigma and show people that there's so many different ways you can do this. Like, yes, if you're into chanting and if you're into, you know, the more spiritual side, like, there are options for you. But if you're not, there's a different entry point for that. You know, you can listen to like Tupac and you know, and say fuck a lot. Like, like, exactly. I joke that like I'm a yogi who tells people to fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like super spiritual.
Yeah, exactly. You know? I think it's funny that you mentioned that, because in our yoga teacher training, you know, we're going through all the materials and handbooks and things, and it's like, they assume you have to be a vegetarian or a vegan. There's all these like attachments to what a yogi is. And, that's the furthest thing from the truth, because it's like yoga is for every body, like literally every body. But yeah, I get that too. Like sometimes, I'm normal and I have like a moment at home and my family be like, aren't you supposed to be a yogi? I'm like, fuck off. Yeah, well, not right now. I'm good.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's just like not all people who lift heavy are, downing protein shakes or
yeah, exactly.
The stereotypical like meathead archetype. There are so many stereotypes, and this yoga stereotype is just one that's been really highlighted, through like through media, through film and TV. Like there's so much stereotype around it that is, those stereotypes are necessary. They're what make things funny. They're what make things,
sure. Oh yeah.
They're what make a character work in a novel or in a TV show. Like it makes sense, but it also can turn people off from doing something that could really benefit them because they think like, okay, well, that's just the way it is, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Exactly. And I know for me personally, and I don't know how it is for you now, but I know when I first started, it was more of like a physical reason that I was like, like much like you, I went to my first yoga class and I was like, holy shit, this was really hard. Same thing. There was like yoga moms, there was ladies in their 60s and they're like doing all this crazy shit. And I'm like, I should be able to do that. Like I'm young. Everything was stuck. So then it became like, I want to keep going because then it was like a challenge, sort of like weight training. It was like this sick thing in my head. Like I'm going to keep going because I want to get better. And then, now the reasons I do yoga are so different. Did you find that same kind of switch?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that everything I did early on in my my sort of fitness journey was for physical purposes. Everything revolved around my body. Like my whole focus was how my body looked, how it performed.
Yeah.
And over the years, just learning to let go of that and separate myself from that narrative and just kind of focus more on like fitness as a hobby, as an addition to my life, as something that I enjoy doing, and that because I do it, both lifting and yoga, I'm a more productive human being. Like I feel better in my life.
Yeah.
Not just in my body, but like in my life, I feel better having exercised, and it's good for so many, cognitive reasons and spiritual reasons for me. Absolutely. So I do notice that now when I get on my mat, it's a super short practice. I'm not doing a lot of, I'm not like doing a lot of arm balances.
Yeah.
And inversions and things like that anymore. I do them every once in a while just to play.
Right.
But it used to be like, really trying to nail a pose and being really competitive about it. And now most of the time I get on my mat and I just do sun salutations, or I just like stretch out my hips and like,
it's
sink
just the
into
best.
It. Yeah.
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 It really is.
I'm so much more like, for me now, if I get up in the morning and I get on my mat for just a few minutes and I just move and I just awaken to my body, I feel more capable of just like being a human being.
Right.
Throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah. And if you could touch on that for a second, because I know I've, been reading your emails for years. I know the ritual that you have in the morning, and it's hard for those of us that aren't morning people to start establishing that, right? So do you have any like tips or suggestions for, because I know personally, like doing WildFire the last handful of days and really making myself get up and doing it, it's like I'm having like this inner tantrum, like, oh, I could sleep for 15 more minutes, right? But I just get it done. So it's right. It's like cultivating that new habit. But for people who are like frazzled in the morning, and I can hear like moms already, like, I don't have time for, to add another 10 to 15. I hear that objection all the time.
All the time.
Yeah. Do you have any like suggestions or tips or reasons why this might actually be a great way to, start your morning? I mean, I know why.
Well, anytime, I think tangibly, if we're saying like, I already have too much to do, or I can't get up earlier and all these other things. Usually that's starting somewhere else. Usually that's like, what are you doing the night before?
Right.
It's like that night before that matters. Are you getting to bed super late? Are you going to bed super anxious? You know, are you constantly going through this like mental feedback loop of all the things that you didn't do right and all the things you still have to do? So if we can track it back and kind of go back to like how you went to bed, how you managed that whole nighttime routine and ritual and situation, then you can probably find it easier to get up in the morning if you tackle that. Because getting up in the morning is not just like a thing in and of itself. It's completely dependent on how you slept the night before.
For sure.
And, you know, and how you like entered into your sleeping situation in the first place. So that's one thing. But another thing being that like when I started doing morning rituals, because I didn't always used to do this. I used to get up in the morning and legit the first thing I would do after like brewing my coffee was sit down at my computer and like start working.
Yeah.
I had moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, and my husband John kept saying we're 3 hours behind. Like, and he kind of like put this idea in my head that like we were 3 hours behind the rest of the world.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because according to him, like New York is the center of the universe.
Yeah.
So he was like, we're 3 hours behind. And so like every day he would get up in this like really flustered state of like, we got to get right to work because we're already 3 hours behind. And so I had that in my head, and I like, that was the narrative I operated from. And one summer we went with Jen Thinkler and her husband and John and I, we all went to this adult summer camp.
Oh, how fun.
Well, it ended up being terrible. It was awful. It was just the camp itself it was a cool concept, not executed well. But the thing that I did get from it that actually was amazing was that it was digital free. So you couldn't have your phone, your computer, anything like that. And so it was like 3 days, 3 or 4 days where you like literally had no, you know, internet access.
Oh my God.
Couldn't, like check Facebook. Anything like that. And it was so clarifying. It was so liberating. Like, I remember feeling really anxious about it because I was just like, oh, I'm not going to be able to, like, work. I'm not going to be able to, you know, get in touch. Like, I remember at one point thinking, like, we're there at this camp, and I was like, the zombie apocalypse could happen. And none of us know. We would be, like,
oh, shit.
Without any, like, you know, communication. But it ended up just being, like, it cleared up so much space. So much like mental space. And so when we got back from the camp, that was what I took with me. We got back from the camp and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to start spending the first hour of my day just like without electronics. I started putting my phone on airplane mode at night so that when I woke up in the morning, if I'd gotten any notifications, I wouldn't see them.
Right. Reaction mode.
Exactly. Yeah. And you don't even have that tug to like start doing it. I made it very clear to my husband, to my son, like, this is what I'm going to be doing in the morning. Like, I'm going to need this time and space to like do this. You know, I communicated that. I started waking up just a little bit earlier, and I brewed my coffee, got a book and a journal, my yoga mat, went outside on my patio, and just started kind of, indulging in this like totally blissful morning. But it wasn't blissful at first. At first, it was like constantly having to suppress thoughts of like, this is a waste of my time. I need to start working. Yeah. You know, I have other shit that I need to be doing. This is ridiculous. But I knew intuitively that it was going to help me. Yeah. In the long run, if I could learn to suppress that anxiety, to manage those thoughts, to manage that so that I could actually manage my energy better. So all of that to say, like, now I do it and it's fine. And there are some mornings where, yes, like if I have a big project or something like that, I'm like, listen, girl, you got 5 minutes. Get your fucking Zen on and then get right to work. You know?
Hurry up and Zen.
Exactly. Hurry up and Zen and then get to work. There are times where it's not a priority in the sense that I have a whole lot of time to dedicate to a morning ritual. But I do it every day because it makes me better at the stuff I have to do. So I'm a busy mom too, and I get it. I get when moms are like, I just don't have the time to do that. But if I do it, I'm a better mom. If I do it, I'm like more chill. I'm more relaxed. I have more patience. You know, I'm more like clear on how I'm feeling, on my energy, and I'm just able to interact better with my kid and my husband. Yeah. So I get it. Stuff. It's not always easy. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to commit to. But if you can just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this for 21 days. I'm going to do it 21 days in a row, no matter what. I'm going to give it a chance. And maybe, just maybe, I am the kind of person who can have a morning ritual. And I don't have to commit to this narrative that I'm not a morning person or that I'm not a person that can do that.
Right. And I just wanted to tell you also I've, I've journaled on and off, more off than on, for probably the last 10 years. And I find myself personally almost like getting anxiety, like not like anxiety, but like, oh, there's too much white space on this paper. I don't know what to write about, and then I feel like you know, schoolgirl who's writing in her diary. Like, what do I want to get out on paper sometimes?
Yeah.
So, in the WildFire program, I loved the guidebook because it gives you, I mean, it seems like simplistic in nature, right? Like it's just a question, but it gives you a jumping off point to then put thoughts to paper. So that was really great. Paired with, with just a short yoga flow and then having that right after, and then that starting your day is just a really great concept. So loved it.
I think my goal with this program and just with everything that I do in general through my work is to offer like a very pared down sort of like, it doesn't have to be this big. It doesn't have to be so overwhelming. It doesn't have to be this huge thing. It can be this bare minimum.
Yeah.
You can just do 5 minutes of yoga a day and journal a couple things, and that can make a huge impact. That minimal effective dose, I think, is really important. I think a lot of people don't do yoga, or they don't work out, or they don't do certain things that they know are good for them because it feels too big.
Right.
And it feels like too much of a commitment. And it feels like, well, if I can't, do yoga for an hour, then I might as well not do it at all.
Right.
And then you end up just like never doing it. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, like, if all you have is 5 minutes, then do 5 minutes. Like, if all you can do is walk around the block, get up and walk around the block, because it's better to do that than nothing at all, because that's going to help you build momentum. It's going to help you create a habit. It's going to encourage consistency and sustainability. And that really is what matters over everything.
Exactly. So let's spin back around on WildFire. So give us what the program is about. Give us a sneak peek as to, what we can expect, maybe, how much time it takes, what sort of yoga we could be looking for in terms of like the program, what we won't find, that kind of thing. So just kind of give it all.
Yeah.
Give us a run through.
It's 21 days. A lot of people are asking, 21 days, like, do I have to do all 21 days in a row? And, after the 21 days, do I still have the flows? And yes, of course, absolutely. Like, you're buying this program, it's yours to keep forever.
Yeah.
Like, you can download them, and, it's not like you have to start this week and do it. We're all doing it together. It's, go at your own pace. I do recommend that you do all 21 days in a row, just because it's sort of a habit building. But if all you have time for is every other day, or, once a week for 21 weeks, like, that's awesome too. Like, whatever works for you. But they're very short. They're all between 5 to 8 minutes. And depending on like how long you want to do the journaling portion, the whole thing, you're going to be done in 15 minutes. It really just depends on how long you want to devote to that. It can be as long as an hour. It can be as little as 15 minutes. But most people are doing this because they don't have a lot of time. So they're doing a 5-minute flow, and then they're journaling for 5 minutes, and then boom, like just, go on with your day. So they're very short, and each flow comes with a corresponding purpose word. And so the purpose words are things like clarity or patience or compassion, authenticity, these different things that are big concepts that are really affect our lives in so many ways, that if we can pull back some layers and dig into those things, we can really improve our quality of life in a lot of ways. So after you do your flow, you sit down and you've just got like some really simple journaling prompts about, what does it mean for you to be, to practice authenticity? Where are places in your life that you can show up more authentically? And they're just these sort of ideas to get you sparked thinking about these things, right? The reason I did that is because I noticed that I have so many clients who, when we start talking about certain things, and we do these things called play sheets that are kind of like the ones in WildFire. And a lot of times people are like, I got really stuck on this question because I realized that I never asked myself questions like these. I just live my life like automatically every day.
Autopilot.
And I'm
Yeah, totally.
I'm not stopping to like think about these things. And so they're purpose words because it's this idea of purpose-driven living, like life on purpose as opposed to life by default.
Love it.
So that whole combination is like, that's the program in a nutshell. But the yoga flows themselves, they're very simple. They're very basic. It's a flow, right? So you're flowing from one position to the next. You're not holding anything for an extended period of time. You won't be doing any arm balances. So you don't need to like be able to do a crow pose or stand on your hands or any kind of crazy versions. There's nothing like that. Because it's geared towards people who are new to yoga or people who maybe aren't new to yoga but just want like a sprinkling of yoga in their lives, so it's really more about like moving and flowing and awakening to your body than it is about like nailing the perfect forearm stand. Like there's not a lot of that. There's no Sanskrit. So I don't use any Sanskrit words. It's all just like, this is warrior pose, this is triangle pose, as opposed to, naming the asanas by their Sanskrit names, which, those are great. And I learned all those things when I did yoga teacher training, and I love it. And I don't mind it when instructors use it in classes, but I wanted to reach people who maybe are like, I don't know what those things mean.
Right.
And that's just confusing to me. Just tell me, I know what warrior pose looks like. Like I can do that, and I can pronounce warrior. So like, let's just stick with that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, there's none of that. There's no chanting, which I love chanting. So that's not to like,
I never did. At first I was like, what's going on? And now I'm like, bring on the ums.
It's actually really cool, right? Like when you and you feel that vibration.
I love it.
Everybody in the class. Like,
harmony.
It's that sort of group, it's that sort of group energy. But also, you're doing this at home in your living room, right? So like for me, the benefit of chanting is having that group energy and that like whole, but you're not going to get that at home in your living room.
Right.
Anyway, so we don't need to do that.
Exactly.
So it's very simple. I mean, you've done the flows. Like they're really doable for like everyone. There's modification.
I love it. I love it because I think about me before yoga and how much I would have resonated with, with this. And now, not to interrupt, but now it's like I was telling you before, it's like I go to a class once a week and that's about the max of my yoga practice. And I need to get on my mat for my certification once, every single day. But it's been this like stress of like, well, I don't really, have an hour to carve out. But I've been finding when I do have a little extra time is doing your WildFire flow is that it then gets me flowing. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done with Neghar and I've got about 10 more minutes. So I'm just going to like play around,
Yeah.
So but anyways.
And that's really what I think is going to happen. I think that what this is going to do for a lot of people is that it's going to be that spark. Like a lot of people are asking me, like, can you really get enough out of a 5-minute flow, or like, is a 15-minute morning ritual like really going to make that big of a difference? And I think if you're going from not doing anything to doing 5 to 15 minutes of morning ritual, I think it's going to make a massive impact, a drastic change. And it's going to give you that spark to say like, okay, well, I really like this. I did this for 21 days. I can do a little bit of longer flow now, or I can, add something else into my morning ritual. Like, I pull tarot cards in the morning. Like that's something, I really like doing. Or maybe there's an inspirational book that you want to read and you want to spend, half an hour reading in the morning. Like you can expand on that, because what this program will do is it will spark that fire for you.
Right. It definitely, and I think it's like anything, the morning ritual is going to be like starting a new exercise program. It's every little bit counts. So I think it's great.
And I think we do people a disservice when we make them feel like they have to, start an exercise program and it needs to be 4 days a week and they need to work out for 1 hour, 4 days a week, and they need to clear out their kitchen of all their junk. And like, we try to get people to be too perfect and do everything all at once, when really we want to like only bite off as much as we can chew, take those baby steps and start to build habits. So if there's one thing that you can do that's going to make the biggest impact on your day, it's to wake up and spend a few minutes just on you.
Yeah. For sure.
Like just for yourself, to move, to, get your mind right, to center yourself, to check in, whatever that is. And so that's why I created WildFire. And obviously it's going to reach a lot of people for other reasons. A lot of people are like, oh, well, I just feel really inflexible and I hate stretching. So maybe this will help me get a little bit more flexible, which it will. But really the passion and the purpose behind it for me was to give people this permission to just say, I'm going to get up and I'm going to carve out 10 minutes a day just for myself. And my kids can wait and my dogs can wait and my partner, my roommate, my job, all these demands that I have on me, these things can wait because I have to take care of me first.
For sure. I agree. And I think too, it'll also spawn into, definitely how it has for myself is the physical component. And then it's like, it's then going to become like you have that craving for it. And when you don't do it, you're going to miss it. And I think that that's how exercise has evolved for me over the years, where now it's like part of my lifestyle. It's like brushing my teeth. It's not like, do I exercise? It's usually like, how am I going to move today? And that could be, quickie WildFire flow, or it could be lifting weights in the gym. It just getting that movement in. It's important. Yeah. Okay. So last but not least, camel toe. I got to talk about it because I have some problems with camel toe. I'm not even going to lie. And I love the fact that you embrace the camel toe and mention it often. So how did this come about? Did you just have did somebody pointed it out to you? Because I've had people point it out to me that weren't really like my friends.
Yeah, that's not
and I'm like, thanks.
Actually, don't point out anything to me about my own body ever.
Right.
I always assume that I live in this body and I don't need your input.
Yeah.
But that's another
that's a whole nother video.
Yeah. So the camel toe thing started actually when I was filming the WildFire flows. I was filming them. I filmed them about a year ago. It was around this time a year ago. And I had just gotten back from Australia, and I'd gotten all these new yoga clothes from Hormozi for the shoot. And I drank probably 2 bottles of wine every day in Australia for a month. And it was hot. It was summer,
It's all good. You don't need to explain.
The white pinks, they go down
They
really
so
fast.
do.
Yeah. So I was definitely heavier and more bloated and just not, whatever. I was just bigger than I was when I bought those clothes. So I remember just having to kind of fidget with them a lot and just kind of try to get, and then I was just like, fuck it. Then
it is what it is.
You know what? This is just how it's going to go down. So I remember looking in the mirror before one of the shoots and just trying to pull up the waist on the leggings so that they would actually go to my waist and fit correctly, and I was fidgeting with them, and then you pull them up and then you have camel toe, right? Then you pull them down and then it doesn't sit on your waist properly, and I was kind of and I had this moment where I was like, why do I care about this?
Yeah.
Why do I actually care about whether or not I have camel toe? That's not my story. That's not my truth. That's, that's something that was fed to me. That's something that I was that society has told me is unacceptable and that I should be ashamed of. And when I started to kind of break it down, I was just like, I don't understand. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. A lot of women say oh, it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, I don't think it's uncomfortable at all. It's not everybody's labia are different, right?
Totally.
So that's, some women have labia where maybe it's really your underwear and pants are really engulfed.
All up in there.
Maybe it's super uncomfortable. But I also think that when women say I don't like it because it's uncomfortable, I think that's a cop-out for a lot of women.
Yeah.
I think there's it's some internalized misogyny where it's I don't want to say that I don't like my body, so I have to say that I don't like it because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not uncomfortable. Unless your shit's hella tight and
Maybe.
it's flossing you in the front, but I mean, other than that, it's not.
It's no more uncomfortable than a thong is, and we all wear thongs.
Yeah.
And that's totally acceptable.
Yeah.
So what I realized was that the camel toe thing, people saying oh my gosh, doesn't she know she has camel toe? We're oh, look at that camel toe. Why are we so ashamed of our vulva? Why are we so no one can see my labia? Nobody tells a guy that oh, don't you know we can see your bulge?
Right. I know. It is what it is.
We know that there's a vulva under there. We know that we have labia. Who's telling us that this is a fashion faux pas? Who's telling us that this is unacceptable?
Yep.
I call bullshit on that. And I feel like it's one of these really subtle ways that we oppress women.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of these really subtle ways that we internalize this idea that a woman can be told what her body should and shouldn't look like, and how she should show up in society. And I decided that it was just that it's so outrageous that I'm just gonna like speak out about it, because you know what, nobody's speaking out about camel toe. So
No.
I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be that person.
And I love it. And that's precisely why I asked this question, because I knew we were going to go down this road. So I love it. I'm so glad. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Embrace the camel toe.
And you know what I've noticed is that since I've been doing that, more people are starting to do it.
Yeah.
And I have like girls at the gym who will like compliment. They're like, I like your camel toe. Like it's the thing.
I love it.
And it's kind of cheeky, and it's
yeah,
kind of a bit, like off kilter, and it's helping people just kind of like embrace their bodies and question, like, why am I so uncomfortable with this? Where is this coming from? There's that questioning process, I think, that can really open up a lot for us.
I agree. I think it's funny. I bought probably about 6 months ago, the anti-camel toe underwear. Have you seen those? And yeah, because
camel toe. Now there's one that's like actually a
camel toe. Lie right now.
It's the anti-camel. It's like actual camel toe.
Oh my God.
That will give you a camel toe.
That's fucking awesome. That's so awesome. I love it. Oh yeah. Those yoga pants, you know, it is what it is. Yeah.
It's going to go up there. Like, I remember once I was reading some reviews for like these Lululemon pants. I was doing online shopping, and I'm reading these reviews, and a bunch of these girls kept saying they were great because they didn't give you CT. Like, they all kept saying CT.
And you're like,
and I was like, what are they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I get it. So like they couldn't even say the word.
Wow.
You know, and to me, like, that's a very subtle form of oppression.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just like, it's not a bad word. Like,
yeah,
it's your vulva.
Totally.
You know? So now I'm really interested. I kind of really wish that there was like more on the etymology. Like, who came up with that?
Yeah.
You know, who decided to call a woman's vulva a camel toe?
I know.
Like,
some random person.
Where did that come from? And then it just caught on, and now everybody's saying it.
It's a household term now at this point.
It is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. And I don't know, I think it's just important to, like, you don't have to embrace it. Like, if you're just kind of like, ew, neg, I think that's gross. Like, I had this one person comment on one of my Facebook posts, and they were like, I think the camel toe thing is disgusting. And I was like, that's cool. Like, that's your prerogative.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you can think that all you want, but so you're probably not going to like anything I have to say. So it's just,
no.
You're probably not going to like it. If that offends you, like, you probably don't.
Exactly. You need to peace out.
Yeah, but no, you don't have to like it. If anything, what I hope that it does is it creates sort of like a questioning process for women, you know, to just like wonder, like, what ideas about my body are my own, and which of those ideas are things that I've been socially conditioned to. Exactly.
And I think this is a great way to do it.
Why not?
Why not?
It's outrageous.
It totally is. Well, this was fun. I enjoyed picking your brain on all things yoga and WildFire, and I will make sure to link up WildFire here on the blog, so that way everyone can check it out, and certainly check out your blog. I'll link up everything so they can get to fall in love with Neghar Fonooni just like I have. So thank you so much for your time, and I had a wonderful time talking with you today.
Thank you for having me. Great.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.